Hello everyone, and welcome to DisasterScope, the disaster documentary channel. Continuous heavy rainfall in Zhengzhou, Henan, has triggered large-scale flooding across the city. This torrential downpour has pushed the city's infrastructure to the brink of collapse. Streets, underground passages, and entire neighborhoods have been swallowed by floodwaters. Please hit that subscribe button to keep following real and up-to-date reports from China. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below.
This was not a slow collapse, but a sudden and violent surrender. In the moment just before the structure gave way entirely, there was still a sky overhead, a sky that had shifted from clear to gray, growing dark and menacing, before unleashing a downpour as if determined to strip the world bare. In Zhengzhou, life at first went on in its familiar rhythm, even under the shelter of umbrellas. The rain was heavy, but the city had been built to withstand it. Gutters guided the water's flow, and the streets were engineered to drain it away quickly. Yet this was no ordinary storm. The first sign that the city's defenses were being tested came on the road. Puddles grew into pools, then into lakes that lapped at the curbs. Traffic, the city's lifeblood, began to slow, the hum of engines replaced by the constant drumming of rain on metal roofs. Drivers peered through windshields blurred by the downpour, a sense of unease beginning to permeate the urban consciousness. The water was not receding. It was rising. On the city's periphery and in its low-lying areas, the water crept over sidewalks, swallowing the wheels of parked cars and sunluncher. The familiar landscape of daily commutes began to transform into an alien, aqueous terrain. The city was holding its breath, unaware that it was on the precipice of a battle it was not equipped to win. The storm was not just passing through, it was settling in, a relentless siege from above that would soon bring the metropolis to its knees. The turning point came when the city's drainage systems, the unseen network designed to protect it, failed completely. They were overwhelmed by a volume of water far beyond their maximum capacity. What began as localized flooding escalated into a city-wide inundation with terrifying speed. Main thoroughfares, once arteries of commerce and movement, transformed into raging brown rivers. The water, thick with mud and debris, surged with a power that pushed aside cars as if they were toys. Vehicles became trapped, their engines stalling as the water level climbed past their doors, then over their hoods. People abandoned their cars, wading into the murky, unpredictable currents. The water's depth became dangerously deceptive, hiding open manholes and other submerged hazard. The city's paralysis spread downwards into its subterranean veins. The metro system, a symbol of modern urban efficiency, became a trap. Water cascaded down stairwells, turning station entrances into waterfalls. Tunnels that were once conduits for thousands of daily commuters filled rapidly, sealing off escape routes and submerging entire trains. On the surface, the scene was one of organized chaos devolving into a desperate struggle for survival. People on motorcycles and electric bikes navigated the flooded streets, their progress slow and perilous. The water was no longer just an inconvenience. It was a hostile force, reclaiming the concrete and asphalt for itself. The sight of a vast, submerged intersection, with only the tops of traffic lights and cars visible, signaled that the normal rules of urban life had been suspended. The city's infrastructure began to collapse under the immense strain. The failure of the power grid plunged large sections of the metropolis into darkness, compounding the fear and confusion. The explosive failure of electrical systems was a stark reminder of the interconnected vulnerabilities of a modern city. Without power, communication became difficult, and the sense of isolation grew. The water continued its relentless assault, not just flowing but actively eroding the city's foundations. Roads began to crumble, with sections of pavement giving way to form dangerous sinkholes. Bridges, vital links connecting different parts of the city, were battered by the powerful currents, their structural integrity compromised. The city was becoming an archipelago of isolated high ground in a vast, muddy sea. From above, the scale of the disaster was breathtaking and horrifying. Entire neighborhoods were underwater, the neat grid of streets and buildings lost beneath a uniform brown expanse. In the face of this overwhelming natural force, a new kind of response emerged. Rescue teams, comprised of firefighters and other emergency personnel, mobilized. They were the first line of defense for a populace now trapped and vulnerable. Clad in bright orange and red life vests, they waded into the floodwaters, their mission clear but the dangers immense. They became beacons of hope in a landscape of despair, their presence a testament to human resilience in the face of nature's fury. Their work was exhausting and fraught with peril, navigating treacherous currents and submerged debris to reach those in need. The flood reached its devastating climax. The water levels peaked, exerting maximum pressure on every structure in their path. This was the moment the building shown at the start finally succumbed, its collapse a dramatic symbol of the city's struggle. In the streets, the human drama was just as intense. The rescue operations became increasingly desperate and heroic. Rescuers formed human chains to ferry people across fast, moving currents, their linked arms a fragile barrier against the torrent. They carried the elderly on their backs and held children above the water, their faces etched with determination. Each successful rescue was a small victory against an overwhelming tide of destruction. The physical and emotional toll on these rescuers was immense. They worked for hours on end, often without rest, fueled by adrenaline and a sense of duty. The murky water was not only a physical obstacle but also a source of constant stress, hiding unknown dangers beneath its surface. The sight of a rescuer being helped by his own comrades, his face being washed clean of the grime and exhaustion of the fight, spoke volumes about the shared sacrifice. It was a quiet moment of humanity amidst the cacophony of the disaster, a recognition of the profound physical and mental price being paid by those on the front lines. The battle for the city was fought street by street, person by person. Every successful evacuation was a hard-won triumph. In some areas, the water was so deep that it reached the windows of the first floor of buildings, trapping residents in their homes. Rescue teams deployed inflatable rafts and boats, navigating the submerged urban canyons to reach stranded families. They guided people through the murky water, offering a steady hand and words of reassurance. The expressions on the faces of those being rescued a mixture of fear, relief, and shock told the story of their ordeal. For them, the sight of a firefighter's uniform or a rescue worker's life vest was the end of a terrifying wait. The water was an indiscriminate force, flooding not just homes but also commercial centers, turning familiar places like coffee shops and malls into submerged ruins. The symbols of modern life and commerce were rendered powerless, their bright logos partially obscured by the brown flood. The rescue efforts continued through the day and into the night, the darkness punctuated by the flashing lights of emergency vehicles and the beams of searchlights sweeping across the water. The city was a war zone, and the enemy was the water itself. Eventually, the rain ceased. A new day dawned with a clear blue sky that seemed cruelly indifferent to the devastation below. As the water levels slowly began to recede, the true extent of the damage was revealed. The city was scarred, bruised, and covered in a thick layer of silt and mud. The receding waters left behind a landscape of wreckage. Streets were littered with destroyed vehicles, piled up against each other in chaotic arrangements. Some cars were left perched in impossible positions, swept there by the force of the flood. The entrance to the subway, once a gateway to the city's depths, was now a choked tomb of submerged cars, a grim monument to the crisis. The process of recovery began almost immediately. The sound of water pumps replaced the roar of the flood, their steady drone a sign of the long cleanup ahead. Residents and shopkeepers emerged to survey the damage, facing the daunting task of shoveling out mud and salvaging what little remained. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. Yet, amidst the destruction, small signs of life and resilience returned. Children in rain boots found a moment of play in the remaining puddles. A sense of community, forged in the shared adversity, was palpable as neighbors helped one another clean up. The city had survived, but it was profoundly changed. The flood had exposed its vulnerabilities and forced a painful reckoning with the challenges of a changing climate. The scars would remain long after the mud was washed away, a permanent reminder of the days when the sky fell and the water rose.
Thank you for watching DisasterScope, where we uncover the truth behind nature's most intense moments. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is what keeps this channel going. Hit the bell so you never miss a real, calm, and clear report. Please note, some footage in this video is for illustration purposes only and may not depict the exact event described. See you in the next episode. Stay informed, stay safe.